When 992 South Champion Avenue was purchased from the estate of Ethel Hairston in 2019, her daughter casually mentioned who her mother was. She was more commonly known by her stage name, Ethel Johnson, and is one of the first African-American women wrestlers in the country. We immediately knew that we had to do something special to honor Ethel, as well as the memories of her family that had grown up in this home. Generations were raised here, and the extended family celebrated every major holiday here. As the homes in this neighborhood find renovation and turnover, we wanted to make sure that the next generation knew what had come before them. When the renovation was completed and the home hit the market, we invited Ethel's family over to get the first peek, as well as a surprise dedication to her memory. Included in our celebrations is Chris Bournet, a Columbus native and journalist who had originally covered the story of women's wrestling in Columbus for the Dispatch. Once he interviewed Ethel and her sisters, he quickly realized it was a larger story than originally covered. Chris has spent the last decade writing and directing a film titled Lady Wrestler, the amazing untold story of African American women in the ring, which is set for release later this year.
So Billy Wolf and Mildred Burke kind of set up this women's wrestling operation in Columbus. They were based in downtown Columbus in this hotel that's no longer there called the Park Hotel. And so Billy had this formula called sex, muscles, and diamonds. So sex was sex appeal, that he wanted the women to look glamorous and like movie stars when they took their publicity photos and stuff. Muscles was like, he wanted them to be real athletes. He didn't want it just to be all fakery and, just totally choreographed moves. He wanted them to like know all the holds and know all, how to fall and how to like, do backflips like gymnasts. And the sex, muscles, and the diamonds was, like Hollywood sex appeal. So he developed this formula and he started recruiting women. Babs, I believe he just had like an open audition, like kind of they call them cattle calls in the acting industry. So he just had a cattle call, and Babs found out about it, was like, why not? I'll just try it out. And Ethel and Babs had been, they'd been going to their neighborhood YMCA recreation center. They'd been taking gymnastics and they'd been learning judo. And Ethel in the documentary talks about how they had two older brothers who would kind of like make these like makeshift weights and teach them how to lift weights. So they already were kind of like tomboys. So learning to wrestle for them was like no big deal. It was like, okay, we're already athletic. This is just kind of like doing school sports, only it's like an extracurricular activity. And this was at a time when, first of all, most women didn't even work outside the home. And like if you were a woman, you had to have your husband's signature to get a credit card even, or to even open up a bank account. You couldn't get a mortgage in your own name. So these women were going all over the world. Most of them, like Ethel, had children. They were married and had children, or they were single mothers, they were divorced. And some of them they had working class jobs before they became wrestlers, like they were waitresses or seamstresses, and then they got recruited by Billy Wolf, and he just kind of groomed them. I would say Billy was like the Charlie and Charlie's Angels. Like he was the man behind the scenes, but he just built this worldwide wrestling enterprise. Babs was a great athlete, but Ethel, I think, kind of had the glamour appeal, and she was just really ferocious. And she was just in demand all the time, all over the world. And the really interesting thing is that her children didn't know she was a wrestler. In the documentary, her oldest daughter, Shelly, tells a story that like mom would just go off for a couple weeks and not really explain where she was going. And we had family members or babysitters who would take care of us. And Shelly said one day she and her friends were playing and the TV was just on in the background. And one of her friends says, "Isn't that your mom on TV?" And Shelly turns around and is like, her mom is like in this, bathing suit wrestling, on black and white TV. And they start screaming and jumping up and down like, "Oh my God, mom's on TV."
For more information about Chris's film, Ethel and her sisters, and the history of women's wrestling in Columbus, check out LadyWrestlerMovie.com.